Thank you to everyone who's made it on. It's absolutely amazing to see everyone again after last week's Every Women's Expo. As I mentioned in our last bit of chat, was that we've managed to track down a couple of experts who have been having some great results with the product themselves, and here to answer some of the questions or talk about their experiences, which would answer a lot of the questions that we're getting over the weekend. We've got the lovely Amanda and charming Kirst here to talk about what they've experienced and how easy working with this supplement in their lifestyle has made essentially achieving better health. We're going to go on to first Miss Amanda. If you want to unmute.
There we go. Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Good morning. Well, good evening to you guys. It's about 6 a.m. here. I'm Amanda. I am a personal trainer, massage therapist in Dallas, Texas. I'm also a mom and a wife, so I'm pretty sure that some of you other ladies can relate to the busy life that is that. Go ahead. What was your question,
Yeah, awesome.
Cameron?
Yeah, awesome. So you're a busy mom.
Every day.
Every day, yep. And you've been working in the fitness industry for a couple of years now.
I've been in the fitness industry about 6 and the massage industry about 8.
Yeah, cool. So within being in those industries, you would have seen a fair few different, I guess, trends and fads come through.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say this, I guess, this movement that's coming through, what would you say is the difference between this one and other ones that you've seen throughout the industry?
It's backed by science. That's my biggest thing. As a personal trainer, this is just not the lifestyle that we are educated around as far as nutrition. So when I was told that for my own health, I should probably take a look at low carb, high fat, there was a lot of drawback for me just because that's not what I was taught. I had to come into it with a very open mind and look at it from a whole health perspective instead of just eating clean to, be fit to fit my job title perspective. So I definitely feel like a lot of fads will come and go, but unless they're backed by science and they're actually changing people's lives, they're not going to be around for any amount of time, for sure.
Definitely. So you mentioned there that you went towards the high fat, low carb lifestyle because of your health. What was it that drove you towards there? And you can just touch on for the people what it is that you were dealing with.
Okay, so it started a couple of years ago. I was just not really feeling the same as I did before. I was competing in CrossFit competitions, actually placing podiums, so I was doing well. And then all of a sudden, my energy and my recovery from workouts just started tanking. I still had the heart to push through and keep competing and keep doing what I was doing, but then the after effect of trying to recover, I was going through 8 days of DOMS for, when it should be just 2 or 3 days and everything is good. DOMS is delayed onset of muscle soreness. So my joints and my muscles were just aching for weeks afterwards, and I didn't understand why. And then slowly my energy level just started to tank. I started to sleep all the time. I was sending my daughter to her dad's house, because I have an 8-year-old. She can't just be, running around the house by herself. And I didn't know what was wrong. I honestly thought I might have been dealing with a little bit of depression. I did try some meds for that. And when you don't need them, it's very clear that you don't need them. So I came off of those pretty quickly and started moving on to looking at other things because I was also getting other symptoms at that point. I started to get much different skin on my face, on my chest. I was running a fever almost every day. And then my stomach was also doing some weird stuff. It was an 87-day run that I woke up every single day and I threw up. I woke up every single day with a headache. And I started to have all of this pain in my joints, in my head, in my ankles. My body was swelling. So I just didn't know what was wrong. And I did know what inflammation was because I have so many clients that I worked on with it. But I think until you truly experience what that feels like, you don't really actually get it. So I didn't correlate the two for a while. Um, and as I started getting more and more symptoms, I started to realize, okay, something is actually wrong. Let me start investigating this. Started with an OB-GYN just so that she could, make sure everything was good on the hormonal balance of things. And she was like, I think there is something wrong with you. Let's send you up to an internist. So I got to see an internist, and she ran all the blood tests on me. She said, you have some weird markers in your blood, but I don't know what they are, and you're a little bit beyond the scope of my practice. So she sent me on to a rheumatologist from there who deals with things like rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune effects, things like that. Um, Took me 4 months to get into that office in Dallas, Texas, where there are literally hundreds of rheumatologists. So that to me speaks volumes to the amount of people who are just sick with inflammation diseases. And when it took me so long to get into the doctor, I almost didn't go because I was like, okay, well, 4 months from now, I'll probably be fine. It'll be no big deal. But it just kept progressing on further and further. I did end up having an autoimmune disorder, so we had to deal with that. And I do have an issue with my stomach, so I have had to deal with that. The only real thing that this doctor could offer me was, this is what my other patients do. So if I was you, I would take a look at it. And that was the low carb, high fat or ketogenic diet that, you're seeing a lot of people take to for a whole health aspect. And even though she could recommend it, she couldn't tell me anything about it at all. She couldn't tell me how many carbs a day I should have, or how many fats a day, or what are the foods that I should be eating, what are the foods that I shouldn't be eating. So it was really just up to me to go home and dive into research on something that I truly did not believe in, because that's not the education that I was given. But at that point, I was so desperate from my life being so awful and just have taken such a turn drastically like that, that I was like, okay, I'm going to be so open-minded and I'm going to give this a try. And I'm really going to dig deep into the research and do it the right way so that I know I'm doing it to its full potential and I'm not just kind of eating that way and hoping that I get a little bit of benefit. If I was going to do it, I was going to go all in, which I did. I did achieve ketosis. It took me about a month and a half, I think, to get there and actually be able to stay there and be adapted. And it was hard. The prep work for the meals, the tracking for everything. I'm not an analytical person. That's just not how I work. So the tracking, weighing things or trying to figure out how many grams of this goes here and putting it in this app. And is this app working? Or am I even with the right calculations for the macros? I didn't even really know until I hit ketosis that I was doing the right thing. But that was something that was just so hard to do. And, I don't know what it was that triggered my Facebook and social media posts to show me this supplement, but I think it's because I had put in keywords for the algorithms and Facebook started showing me things that they thought were important to me and started seeing this drink. I knew that one of the girls that was doing it. I knew from her being in my boot camp and paying me and not showing up to boot camp because she couldn't get out of bed, that something was going on, because every morning when I was waking up to go to work then at 4 a.m. Hey, Roxana, can you mute out? There we go. Can you guys hear me still? Okay. I just knew from seeing this girl getting up and checking in at a gym at 4 o'clock in the morning when she couldn't make it to boot camp and was paying so much money that something was going on. I still didn't talk to her about it because I just was kind of skeptical. I was like, let me just kind of look around and see what happens. And then I saw another personal trainer who was also using it. And I kind of knew some of her struggles with anxiety and depression and noticed a change in her. So I was like, all right, let me talk to her, because professionally, I respect her opinion a little bit more than somebody else that doesn't have the same background as I do. So that's how I found it, is social media. And I started to drink it beginning of March. And day 3, I was like, okay, something is very clearly different in me because I'm not just taking a nosedive and sleeping all day. So I knew that was something. Then a few days later, my headache went away. And then a few days later, all of the pain that I was carrying across the front of my chest and in my back really just started to feel like it was lifted. I started feeling like I wasn't so heavy. I started feeling like there was a little smidgen of hope that the last 2 years of my life was not going to be the rest of my life. And I really started to be open-minded about it more because I think that the mind and body connection is very strong. And I just, one a day is what I started with. Now I do 2 a day because I work longer days, but I did 1 a day, gave it a good run, started tracking all of my progress, kept doing all of my blood labs. As recent as, I think it was 3 weeks back, I went to my rheumatologist again, checked back in with her. She was like, are you still taking the med? How are you doing on it? Because she did prescribe me Plaquenil, which is an immunosuppressant because my immune system was just flat out attacking itself all the time and not stopping. But the thing with that pill is the side effect that some people get from it is a huge drop in your blood sugar, and it's very fast. I was passing out, and I was extremely worried that I was going to hit my head or be driving a car or something like that. So when I got a cold, I stopped taking it because I figured if I am going to get a cold on an immunosuppressant, I am never going to get better. And that's when I really realized that what was going on in my body was because of the supplement that I was taking and not the med, because after that day I never took it again. And my blood work shows that I don't have any of the same inflammation markers. I do not have a positive ANA, and I don't even feel the same way as I did before. So she said that I am in full remission, and when I go back in 6 months, if it's still the same, she just kicks me out of her practice. She says there's no need for you to come and see me anymore if that's not going to be something that you need and you found something that worked for you. She and my internist both checked it out, looked at the label. I sent them, as much research as I could find on it from the doctors who worked for the company, and they were all about it. They were like, if this is what's helping you and this is what's making you feel better and it's helping you to stay ketogenic and, maintain the food lifestyle and stay in ketosis, go for it, girl. So I have been full force doing this supplement for the last almost 120 days. July 9th will be 120. So that's kind of my background and how I got to where I am and how I'm here and just doing a lot better. So.
Wow. Thanks very much, Amanda. It's the story never gets any less touching every time I hear it. And it's amazing to hear you say that you are in remission, and into that point whereby now your lifestyle is starting to get easier and easier by 120 days. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. We're going to go over to the lovely Kirst, and she will give us a bit of a rundown into who she is in the world and how the supplement's been working with her and how it's helped with her lifestyle in regards to the changes it's given her.
All right, thanks, Cam. So let me just put a little caveat because I know we've got Cam and Brad and Shane. Sorry, fellas, going to talk some girl stuff right now. You did actually set up a women's call. Hey, first thing I want to talk about is sugar cravings, and I think that might be, there's a particular special switch in the female brain that makes you want to eat copious amounts of chocolate the week before your period. So the one major thing I've found since I've been using the Keto OS for 3 months now, since the beginning of April, and one of the biggest things I've found is that it literally has stopped the sugar cravings. And I'm a bit of a chocoholic, so I still eat a little bit of it because I enjoy the taste of it, but it's not that craving and that mid-afternoon sugar craving by any means anymore. The second thing that I've really, really noticed, and it's a kind of a funny thing because I didn't notice until it happened, was the first month I was taking the Keto OS, I didn't have any PMS. And so I'm 45, I started getting my period at around 12, and my whole life I've always experienced PMS of having really sore tender breasts and bloating and feeling that general kind of heaviness and massive carb cravings in that week leading up to my period. And I you know, talking with girlfriends as I do, I know that's pretty common for a lot of us. And then literally on the first day of my period, I'm hopping Nurofen like there's no tomorrow just to get me through the day. But I'm kind of one of those people that hasn't let it stop me, but I'm definitely affected by that PMS and that first, second day period symptoms. So what I noticed in my first month was suddenly it was like, oh shit, my period's here. And I totally forgot about it. I was actually traveling that day and was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I didn't have any of the symptoms. Then, sure enough, the second month, same again, totally caught me by surprise. And then third month, which was just last week, same again, caught me totally by surprise. So I was like, all right, this is actually having an effect on my hormones and evening out my cycle. And when you consider that when, you know, if we look at my cycle is usually only 24, 25 days. So it's, I actually have like that feeling pretty shit in that, you know, for a week and that couple of days. That's a pretty big chunk of time of your life, if you think about it, that you're not performing optimally. And I know, you know, I don't have the same strength in the gym. I can't engage my core properly and just due to those PMS symptoms. And that definitely has abated and completely disappeared. So, you know, I know that the ketones definitely play a large part into balancing out your hormones, and I'm doing more research into that myself so that I can help explain that scientifically. My background sports science, so for me I need to understand how these things work, and so, you know, I'm happy to share that information with everyone once I find out a bit more myself about that. So yeah, any questions, Ken?
Yeah.
Sorry about the girl talk.
No, not at all. I grew up with, you know, my mum, my sisters, and my nana. So
Yeah.
more than versed in the conversation that you're talking.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I usually just stay home. I didn't ever used to go home for that week anyway.
Yeah, and hey, let's face it. The funny thing is, I put a Facebook. I'm not someone to really talk about this stuff publicly, but this week I was like, stuff it. You know, like, girls need to know about this. So I actually did a little video and posted it on Facebook. And funnily enough, it was all my male friends that watched it because I said, warning, guys, girl talk. So, of course, they're all like, what's this secret women stuff? So all of my male friends watched it. And, you know,
all the dudes up.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, my God, too much information. But seriously, like, every guy has females in their life that, you know, they either have to suffer through their PMS with them or so, you know, I think it's relevant to all.
Yeah, definitely. What we'll do is we'll open up for a couple of questions just quickly, and then that'll be this first half of our conversation around the product. And then from there, here we'll talk about the vision of the business and the opportunity it's giving for people or for mums out there who are looking for more for their family and themselves. So first of all, let's get into some questions for you, Kirst.
Wave. Is it just you or is it someone else? Sure.
Is there anyone else that's got some questions?
What you can see there is what they can see. Yeah, but why would they be looking at you? Oh, probably wouldn't. See, it just flicks through people like that.
Hey, Michelle Jones, you have been unmuted. We can hear you.
Oh, no.
we have the power. Did you have any questions at all? Michelle, did you guys have any questions at all? No, you're muted now. All right. I haven't really got any questions coming through. If you guys come up with any questions that you do want to hear from Miba, Amanda, or from Kirst, just what we'll do is get back in touch with the people that got you on here to start with, and they will we'll direct you guys towards them to get those answers. All right, Brad, if you want to just mute everyone out again.
Why is it only $4 change and only cost $5?
Oh, wicked. Brad,
sorry.
Awesome. I remember our first Zoom. Awesome. So as I mentioned, we are going to go now into a little bit of a chat about the business, and to do so, we have the lovely Mia, who is very kindly got up out of bed to talk to us about how this business is changing her life, but not just hers, the hundreds of women that she works with every day to move towards better and providing more for their family than they could have thought this would ever do. Mia, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Cam. How are you?
Fantastic. It's hard to not be sitting on the beach of Costa Rica.
Rub it in.
Awesome. So Mia, what's your background? What have you been doing prior to Prove It?
So I am a mum. Like that is my number one job. My main, priority in life are my children. I'm a mother to 4, and outside of being a mum, I'm also a wife, and my husband works away a lot. So he's actually out in the mines. I'm in far north Queensland, so a little bit away from you guys that are joining us from WA. But I'm sure in WA, I know you guys have got a lot of mines up that way as well. So you might be familiar with the mining life. So my hubby works away quite a lot out at the mines, and then I also own and operate a health food cafe, nutrition station. So that's a 7-day gig, as hospitality is. I'm sure you're aware of that too, Ken, with your background being a chef. It's so it's it's hard work, and it's big days and long hours, but we love it. It's a lot of fun, but it has had its stresses, don't get me wrong. And and more recently I fell into Prove It, which has been just the most amazing opportunity for myself and for my family.
Yeah, amazing. What was it that drew you towards the company, and what was the first, I guess, inkling that you realized the opportunity that you had here to help others become better?
Right. So when I first started, I actually didn't even know about the business opportunity. A bit like with Amanda's story, how Facebook had that awesome way of bringing things to my attention. I had been doing some research on the ketogenic diet, and as you do, kind of pop things into Facebook, it's one of the go-to places. After having my last baby, so at the time it was sort of around November. He wasn't quite 1 yet. I was feeling really just not great about myself. I was struggling to lose the baby weight that I'd put on in that last pregnancy. And we had some stresses going on with the business as well, and so just all round wasn't feeling very good at all. And I was aware of what was happening. I just was really struggling to kind of pull myself out of that bad place. And I knew the benefits of a ketogenic diet, not only for fat loss, but also for the cognitive functions, benefits, I should say, that you can get from that. However, I was just finding it all too hard. My husband was, a main supporter of mine, and he was really sort of there by my side trying to help me, do the ketogenic diet, but I wasn't doing it. It wasn't working. I was really struggling with it, just based on the restrictions and how strict you had to be. So I honestly take my hat off to anyone that can do it. So Amanda, when you said that you had reached it, it's hard work. So, for me with 4 kids, trying to restrict them in that way it just wasn't working. We obviously eat a very healthy diet, but yeah, it wasn't working. And so lo and behold, maybe a week or two later, in my Facebook feed, I noticed just a box. One of my friends had posted a box of the keto, and obviously just recognizing that word keto, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then maybe another day or two later, another friend that I knew pretty much had posted the same thing. It might have just been a couple of the sachets in a post. And so that got me thinking and looking into it a little bit more. So I reached out to my friend who I've known for years. He and I have been, close mates for, I don't know, 9-10 years. And I rang him up just wanting to get a little bit more information about what it was that he was talking about. And because I knew him and I trusted him, and basically, when he told me about how amazing this product was and what it was doing for him, I knew straight away that I wanted in on this. And it was more so for me for the fat loss purposes. Like I kind of didn't really care. I had my blinkers on. He's like, it'll do all this and it'll do all that. And I'm like, yeah, I just want it because I felt like I needed to lose the weight. And if I lost the weight, then I thought maybe I'll feel better about myself. And anyway, I know that's very naive, and I can see now that, now that I've come a long way in this process, there's more to it than just that. But that's how I was. And being now 6 months in and working with a lot of women in my business, that tends to be one of the starting points for women, coming on board with this product. It is probably, 80% of the women that I meet, that is, typically one of their main agendas. So anyway, it literally was within a couple of days that I started the product. Actually, I went a bit ahead there, but I said to him, okay, well, hook me up. I would love to get started on this. I said, what do I need to do? And he said, well, just give me your details and I can order it for you. And I said, okay. So when he said that, I'm like, well, what do you like? How do you get it? And he said, I actually promote the product. And just having been in business and, having that business mind, I was like, well, okay, well, tell me more about that. Like, what are you doing? How are you getting your hands on this stuff? And so he kind of touched a little bit on that, and bless his heart, he didn't really know much more. He's just like, all I know is I love the product. I drink it. It makes me feel amazing. I tell my friends about it. At the end of the month, there's money in my bank. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I need to talk to someone else. And that's what happened, and that's what I love about this business, is it ultimately is that simple, in that you don't need to know everything. Like, I actually don't really understand, like, Kirsten and Amanda with their backgrounds. And, I don't know a lot about the science behind ketones and ketosis. All I know is that this product has literally changed my life. I started drinking it. It was about day 2, day 3. I honestly felt so good. And I know it doesn't always happen that fast with people, but for me, it just, I suppose I was lucky enough to start feeling those benefits almost straight away. I was that mum that had on my phone literally a 2:30 p.m. alarm that I had to set in the afternoon, because every chance I was falling asleep on the couch and I'd miss the school pickup. So I had to make sure I had that alarm on my phone for that reason. That's how tired and exhausted I was. And so just being able to be awake in the afternoon and not having those afternoon naps, not sort of emotionally eating like I was, just feeling all around better. I knew I was onto a great thing, and I again got back in touch with that friend. I'm like, if I'm feeling this great, I know my mum can, my sister can, my grandmother. I just got overwhelmed with all these people that I thought of that I knew could benefit from this. I'm like, I need to know more about this business. And so from there, it kind of stemmed into getting me on some phone calls with, much like what we're doing tonight, on a Zoom call with some other people. And it all kind of stemmed on from there. And it was literally Christmas Eve. So, at that time of the year, I didn't have 2 cents to rub together, but there was a great sale happening. I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity. I said to my husband, do you trust me? And he's like, I trust you and I support you. And I said, if I put this on the credit card, I promise to make back that money in 30 days. And that was my goal. And, he's like, go for it. So I did. I signed up to the business, and, I kept that promise. I actually probably made that money back in 5 days. For me, this business just launched. It just kind of took off because I was so passionate about it. I knew what it was doing for me, and I desperately wanted to get this product into the homes of so many other people that I loved and cared about. And so that's pretty much how it took off for me. I don't know if I probably just went in a whole nother direction there to whatever that initial question was. But hopefully that gives you an idea of, of where my journey began and where I'm at now. And 6 months in, so I just had my 6-month anniversary. So like I said, I signed up on Christmas Eve. So it was a couple of days ago. I forgot to celebrate that actually. Now I'm looking at the calendar, I'm like, drat. Oh, that's the baby. Oh. One sec, I'm going to have to keep talking. Sorry.
Susie, no worries. Awesome stories here from some very empowered females in regarding to how the business is absolutely changing their life, but not just theirs, the people around theirs. I know Mia quite personally, and the movement that she's creating up in the, I guess, the outback of Queensland is amazing. The stories that we're starting to hear for the women around her and the families around her is truly inspiring. You're all good.
The epitome of mum life, like hashtag mum life.
Awesome.
So basically, I run my business around my family, my children, and like I said, my husband being away.
Yeah, amazing. Having watched your journey personally, it's been truly inspiring. And I know that a lot of people in my network truly enjoy connecting with you when you do get a chance to get in front of the camera and talk about the journey that you've had. Because I guess the biggest thing is do you have to be, in your eyes, do you feel that you need to be an expert to be involved in this business and help people? Hell
no, absolutely not. I mean, sure, for people with that background, like that's just an added bonus. But for me, like I'm not a numbers person. I definitely don't like, I finished school up at grade 12. I didn't go on to do any further studying or anything like that. I kind of taught myself when it comes to business, and yeah, like it's just one of those things that literally if you have a story to share, then that's as simple as it is at the end of the day. Like if you have an experience on this product and in some way it's made you feel better, it's changed your life for the better, then that's all you need. I'm telling you, that is literally all you need in this business is a story to share. I'm not in the game of selling ketones. Like I actually don't sell ketones at all. I share a story and people connect with that story, be it other women or, anyone for that matter. And that sort of just, it all stems from there. So you definitely don't need to have, have the sales experience or the science background or anything like that. Like I said, it's wonderful that these people do have that, but if, you don't need to feel like that is something that you need. There are so many tools and systems set up in this business that enable us to be able to, point people in the right direction where needed, and in terms of training and learning, like it's all there for us. I certainly know a lot more about ketones and ketosis 6 months in than what I did 6 months prior. But that doesn't mean to say that I use that knowledge. Like I really don't need to. Again, it all just comes back to having a story to tell and sharing that story. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much for jumping on, Mia. It's been amazing hearing your story again. What we do is we'll open up to see if there's any questions from anyone else. And if not, that'll be it. Has anyone got any questions? If you do, just unmute yourself there. Crickets. Awesome, guys. Alrighty. Well, look, if anyone does have any questions, just get back to the person that enrolled you, and from there we can answer any that you need. And if we need to get anything specific from any of the girls, Mia, Amanda, or Kirst, then what we'll do is we'll put you in touch with them with a list of questions. Thanks very much, ladies, for jumping on. Very empowering. And
thank you for having me.